experience and his success. So, without further ado, we're gonna welcome Pastor Kevin, and we're gonna thank him for being here. And we're gonna dive right into it. We're not gonna waste any time because we know we're running a little bit late. So we're gonna dive right into it. So, Pastor Kevin, what inspired you to pursue a career in finance, and how did you get your start in this industry?
Yes, that's a very good question. I think I can have to go back a little bit further, a couple of years, or more than a couple of years. I remember, I would say both of my parents, really. I think I look at it back when I had my first job. Might have been at the Boys and Girls Club, working 13, 14. So I'm 38 now. So over 25 years ago. And my mom particularly, when I was working at the Boys and Girls Club, I had a little check, maybe $80, $100, whatever it was, for 2 weeks. And she took me to the bank. She took me to the bank, Santerre Bank on Main Street. It was a bank right on Main Street. She opened up an account for me, or she put me on one of her accounts, and just started saving money. And I got a checkbook and started balancing the checkbook. So I'm 13, 14, 15 years old, saving money and balancing a checkbook and having those old fashioned save deposit slips and seeing the money grow. And then from there, I just grew on. They kind of instilled in me on the importance of saving money, having money for tomorrow. And then I would say my father, I remember when I had started working at ShopRite. I might have been like 16 at the time, or 17, and I was working, and every other paycheck I had to give it to pay for my car or my car insurance. Having somebody who's 17 years old on their car insurance kind of goes up. So from that time on, they kind of showed me the responsibilities of the importance of having money and saving money and taking care of the things that you have. And so from there, I just kind of attributed to learning more about money, because they taught me how to manage money, seeing how my mom managed money. So from there, kind of just wanted to learn more. And then when I went to Montclair State University, I still went to school undecided, but I was always intrigued by money. I was always intrigued by accounting and saving money and being smart with money. And then wound up getting a bachelor's degree in finance and management. And I went to Monmouth University to get my MBA. But I was always intrigued ever since I was 13, 14 years old, always learning about saving money and trying to build wealth for myself.
Awesome. So you started with your parents, really. You just putting in the work and showing you how, as a young kid, what it's going to take for you to be a successful member of society. You need money. You need to be able to handle your finances. Now you have a young family. I'm pretty sure you're trying to instill the same things into your kids. So what would you say to somebody that have children? Because not a lot of parents do that, right? Your parents took the time to okay, we're going to the bank and you're going to open an account. This is what it's going to take. You're going to pay your own car insurance. What do you say to some of these folks that I think, they have kids and they think, maybe they too young to understand this. Maybe they too young. I'll pay this for them, but they don't understand that it was going to take them to teach, not only to tell them, you need to save money, but teach them how to save money.
Yeah. So I think the one thing, the one thing I know I do now with my children, and I don't know if you do the same with yours, Brother Rock, is we try to give them allowance. Trying to cleaning, if they clean, they fix their bed, they get $1. If they do their homework or put their shoes next to the door, they get $1. If they help take out the trash, they get $1. And we show them what my wife and I try to do. Was she brought this envelope system where every time we give them money, they'll put it in the envelope, and we know that they have to give money to church and give 10%. But I know growing up, right, living in a Haitian household, every Saturday people have to clean, or throughout the week you got to clean, and they was never giving chores or chores and you get money. So I think for us as a Haitian culture and a Haitian community, yes, it's good for us to clean the house and good to help around, but I think, we have to at a young age show them, like, hey, if you by working hard, you should be able to earn some type of wage. And I think that's what a lot of other cultures they do. They do that for their children when they try to earn some type of
I'm
wage.
glad you said that too, because you said, in our culture, because when you said, you're teaching your kids, when they do things, they do certain things, do their chores, you give them $1 here and there. I'm thinking like, growing up, my parents probably be like, it's your job to do these things. Why am I paying you? I've already paid the bill. So the least you could do is just clean your room or, things of that nature. So I'm glad to hear a different perspective. So, tout le monde cap tande grand moun nou yo qui gen ti moun n'a levé ti moun des fois nous faut encourager ti moun yo travail dans ka là mais là font bagay tout faut nous ba on ti ba même là nous pas bali puis aller dépenser mais nous ba yo li comme si puis apprendre safe parce que l'important pour nous montrer ti moun yo safe là yo jeune là commencer grand puis yo gen temps gen habitude ça. The other question I have for you, Pastor Kevin, I guess what I want to ask is, what are some of the some common misconceptions people have about finance and financial planning, and how can they be corrected?
So some of the misconceptions people probably have is that they're going to get rich.
Yeah,
right. It's like some get rich scheme. Another misconception that people have is they're apprehensive, right? They're apprehensive to get in, right? And I think if you're not in, you're not able to get into the right stock or the right investment. If you're sitting on the sidelines, right? If I want to use a basketball analogy, if you're on the bench, you're not in the game.
You're not in the game. That's right.
One thing I learned when I started working on Wall Street was, take $100, $400 and buy a stock just to get in, right? And to see where it goes from there. So I think one of the misconceptions is people think, I'm gonna get in and I'm gonna make money. I'm gonna be a day trader, quit my day job and be a day trader. I don't think it really works like that.
Yeah.
Unless you really put time to the craft. But also getting into the game, investing money, learning, reading, will benefit you later on. But also now. But there's also both sides to the coins. But I think just getting in the game, investing what you may have, any disposable income you may have on the side, if it's $100 a month or $50 a month, just getting into the market while the market may be volatile, but you'll be able to ride the waves. So what I mean by ride the waves is that as you're currently investing, meaning the market's up and down, you're still in the market, and where there is gains to be made, you'll be getting those gains because you're daily in the market. Where you may be sitting on the bench, going back to the basketball analogy, and like, I'm gonna wait till the market goes down, but then you might have missed a stock that was hot, and you could have purchased it where it was at $20, where now it's at $40. You already missed the boat, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, now you're talking about stocks. There are some people that have no idea what that is. Can you elaborate a little? Can you give us, a little bit of sauce? What is a stock? And you talk about getting in the game. How do you get in the game and things of that nature?
So, yes. So a stock, and I'm not going to make it too
technical.
Right? Yes. But a stock is you're purchasing a piece of the company.
Okay.
So for those companies that are public company that trade on the exchange, New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, they allow shares to be purchased on the exchange, and then from there, the public can purchase shares.
Right.
So when you, for example, Microsoft, Apple, it will allow people to purchase shares, and of course, those shares. One share could be $400, or Amazon is like $400 just for one share. But if you go for something smaller, like Ford or Enterprise, or anything of those natures where there's relatively $20, $30, $40 a share price, but shares is basically purchasing ownership into the company.
Right.
So that's that, and then you cannot buy shares just. You have to buy it on the exchange. So if it's through a brokerage house, if it's through some type of app that you were able to do it, Charles Schwab, Morgan Stanley, where you go in and purchase shares that way. I particularly am well versed within the mutual fund space, mutual fund world. So I've been working for the company I've been working with for 6 years now, but they all surrounded my 14 years in the industry has all been around mutual funds. So mutual funds is very similar to stocks, is where it's a mutual fund is comprised of the different stocks.
Okay.
So,
Awesome. Now, what are some tips would you give to someone who's just starting to invest their money?
the one tip I would give somebody is to figure out what kind of investor you want to be. Mm-hmm. Figure out your risk tolerance. Have a long-term and short-term plan. If you're going to get into a particular stock or a particular mutual fund, are you going to do it for the long haul, or you just wanted to do it for the short term? Because there's going to be implications for that, right? So if you're buying a particular mutual fund and you're like, all right, you know what, I'm going to buy it and sell it within 2 months. Some mutual funds won't allow you to do that. Right. If you do, there's going to be some type of CDSC or some back-end charge fees or whatever.
Some penalties.
Penalties, yeah. Exactly. So figure out, my advice I would give is figure out what type of investor you want to be. If you're going to be in the game for the long haul, short or the short haul, and do some research. I think doing some research on what companies you want to buy, and make sure you have the capital to do so.
Okay. Now, can you talk about some common mistakes that people make when managing their finances and how to avoid them?
I think for me, and I think it's a generic question, but I think I'm speaking for somebody who's married, right? I think having a plan, right? Okay. If you're married with a husband and wife, you want to sit down and have a plan. If you're if you're somebody who's newly married, how much debt do you have going into the marriage, right? What am I coming into financially, right? So you want to have those conversations. So if you're somebody who's single by yourself, what is your long-term and short-term goal? If I want to be moving out of my parents' house in 5 years, if you're married and living in an apartment complex, which there's nothing wrong with that, do you have a goal to move out in 5 years? So having those conversations, if it's with yourself, if it's with a financial planner, or if it's with your spouse. So those would be some advices I would share with, depending on who and where and what situation you may be, that just having those conversations and making sure, you're planning to set a goal and make sure you're trying to reach those goals.
Okay. I know earlier you talked about one of the advice you'll give somebody is know what kind of investor you want to be. Assess your risk tolerance or whatnot. Now, how can someone determine their risk tolerance, and when it comes to investing, right? And what factors should they consider? So
that's a good question. So there's several types of risks. I mean, every investment has a risk associated with it, right?
Right.
There's investment risk, there's market risk, there's different types of risks when it comes to any type of portfolio or financial vehicle or investment. There's a risk averse and there's risk tolerance, or there's another word for it. But for me, I'm a person who is risk averse, and I'm not. This is what it is risk averse and risk seeker. I'm not a risk seeker. I'm more risk averse. And how I'm going back to my Montclair State days. I remember my professor saying how you could determine that the type of risk person you are is how you sleep at night. So if you were to put $1,000 into the market and you were to lose 90% of that $1,000 and you can't sleep at night that night, then you're probably not a risk seeker. You're probably more risk averse. So it all depends on if you're willing to put $100 on the table and I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm gonna lose the $100. Have a chance of losing all $100, and you're fine with that. Then you're probably more on the risk seeker or the risk averse side, depending on the side of the spectrum. But if you want to use a larger amount, if you want to use $10,000, if you could lose $10,000, you think you can sleep at night. I think that's what it is. So for me, myself personally, I'm not a person who takes a lot of risk, and that may be just in life in general. But I think for financially, I like to play it safe. And also too, your age, right? So if you're looking at somebody in particular, somebody who like ourselves, like you and me, who's in our mid-30s, we should be more risk takers, risk seekers financially. because we have time to recoup some money. If we're talking about 401k, IRAs, or just buying stocks, right? We want to be aggressive as possible. If we're referring to someone in the late 50s and 60s and 70s, they should be naturally risk averse because they want to be able to hold on to the money that they have. They shouldn't be pouring $100,000 or $1,000 every day into the market. They want to be able to be risk averse. So you want to look at the different factors: your age, your portfolio, your long term and short term goals and agendas.
Okay, sounds good. But now, especially in our community, right? We see, most people probably don't have the extra money to invest, right? They probably think, okay, well, after I pay the bills, there's not that much left. So, and that really does affect the economy. So I guess what I want to ask is, what do you think is the biggest challenge facing the finance industry today? Because a lot of people are not investing, right?
Yeah. A lot of people are not investing, right? And so as I was preparing for this, just thinking about it, it all depends on what you're referring to. And I want to take one aspect of it, right?
Okay.
So let's look at our jobs, right? Those who work at the hospital jobs, or anyone who works any particular job, you should get a 401k, right? You should get some type of employee sponsorship plan or pension. And if you're not contributing to that portion of your retirement, you're losing out on free money, right? So if they say, the company tells you, what, Rock, invest 8% of your paycheck or 5% of your paycheck, and we're going to match it, right? But you decline to do that because you don't have enough money to pay your bills, or you want to go out and buy Jordans and do different things like that. The company is telling you, like, all right, 5 or 8% or 10%, we will match you up to a certain dollar amount, and that's free money. So why not take the risk, or why not open up your eyes and be like, all right, let me start investing now. Let me get into the market and start investing now for retirement, for saving for your future, for your retirement future. So that's one easy way to really get into the market, but just by allowing, open up a employee sponsor plan, 401k, and allowing your company to match free money right there.
Right. So the finance industry, it has its challenges, but you think as people, as a community, we need to learn how to use the challenges to advantage. Because you talk about how at work, me personally, I do have a 401k, I do have a Roth IRA and things like that. You're trying to invest and save money, but not everybody. Because I can speak. Like my parents, for example, back then they didn't know anything about investing, about buying stocks, or investing in the market and things of that nature. And I'm pretty sure there are some Haitian people, some that still don't know anything about that. So it is important to know how we talk about, how we trying to decipher and talk about what finance is. It's not only about saving money; it's about investing and making money, because the money we making on a regular job, sometimes it's not enough. It might be enough to pay the bills, but is it enough for our kids to, if something happen to us, to live for our kids, to be able to take care of our home in the future and things of that nature? So appreciate you for being here, and I got a few more questions for you. I don't know if you we're gonna take a quick break before we dive back into it, but we're gonna take a quick commercial or music break. We'll be right back. This is Interaction with Rock with Pastor Kevin Michelle.
Nous c'est la jeunesse. On nous veut dignité nous parce que c'est premier côté à attaquer nous. On nous kebe tête nous, on grâce bête nous, on nous coin dans tête.
Nous c'est berceau, c'est la énergie couchée. Nous c'est cerceau pour qu'un escampe dignité. Nous c'est trois roches différents bas chaud de pays. Nous c'est un grand jardin qui a qui pi fond dans ta pays. Nous c'est très dignon, dans mi-temps de l'essence en vieillesse. Nous c'est la jeunesse qui met tête nous, crasé bête nous, point dans tête nous. Faut nous qui met tête nous, crasé bête nous, point dans tête nous. Faut nous qui met tête nous, crasé bête nous, point dans tête nous. Faut nous qui met tête nous, crasé bête nous, point dans tête nous.
Toi-même tu sais, on va pas se laisser conduire. On doit être au volant. On va pas se laisser réduire en simple cerf-volant. Nous que l'oublier si nous c'est force.
Welcome back to Interaction with Rock. We have Pastor Kevin in the studio with us. Pastor Kevin Michelle. Now let's talk about saving, right? I know you are. I'm not gonna say you're a financial guru, but you are a professional, right? So, when it comes to saving, what are the rules? You know, how do you save money?
So, I never grew up. I know a lot of Haitians out there. You're calling this term sol. I think sol is sol, susu, fufu, whatever it is. In every culture has some type of sol. So I never really grew up on those principles. Sol, of course, I've seen people doing it, but I think for me, I was taught this at a young age, and as a pastor, right? And, you know, don't get upset at me for saying this, but I would be remiss not saying this at all. I grew up learning this principle. You know, if you get a paycheck, you know, you want to save 20, you want to invest 20, and you want to live off of 80. And what I kind of adopt that rule was, I do 80, 10, 10.
Or, yeah, 10, 10. All right.
Yeah. So what
the
I
math
do,
was a little bit off. Is that 20? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So 80, 10, 10. So I do invest 10. I give, of course, my 10% to the Lord, and then I live off the 80%.
Gotcha.
So those are some of the principles I learned off for myself, is, giving back to the Lord what I first received. And I always learned when you do invest, when you do give back to the Lord, when you do, do God's work, or being fruitful with the money that He has given you, I have always seen benefits and blessings upon my life. So, and for me, I try to live off the 80 and not live off the 100% that I get. So giving back to the Lord, saving 10% of that, or investing the 10% of that. Saving and investing kind of falls in the same line item, but then also just living off the 80%. So there'll be a general rule, a thumb rule for any college student, any young adult. I know I never got into the whole soul where, you give, this hand this month and you get the hand 3 months or later on. But if that works for you, that's great. But I think just living off those godly principles for me and my family, just always giving back to the Lord and living off of the remaining that I may have to save and to live off and to pay bills. I think that's one principle, one advice in saving. Another thing I will share, if you allow me, Brother Rock, is this.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
The one thing I always share with our youth or anyone I do talk to about financial money, I even did this with my wife. I would automatically, if you get a paycheck of $1,000, right? So each 2 weeks you get paid $1,000. The one thing you want to do is you get direct deposit, right? So the $1,000 will automatically go to your account, your checking account, right? Or if you go to the bank, they give you $1,000 cash. But what I always did was I would always have 10% or $100 or $200 take out and put into another account. So all I would get, so that was $1,000. All I would see was $800 for that particular paycheck, and that $200 would automatically be direct deposit to another savings account. And so little by little, each month, each pay period, $200 will automatically go into that account. Because sometimes you can't trust yourself to go put that $200 or $100 into that account. some months it'd be like, all right, you know what, $200, and then it goes down to $20, and then you're not saving. So
Right.
that would be one rule I would like to share with anybody, would just to go ahead and just pay yourself by automatically taking that money out, setting it up automatically every 2 weeks, and then you would kind of see yourself growing. And it's very similar to a soul, right? Instead of you waiting for the hand, it just goes into your account automatically.
Right. Now, what do you say with someone that says, "Okay, I live in the now. I don't see the purpose of saving because in a minute now I could be gone. So if I work, I make money. I need to be able to enjoy myself and spend my money how I see fit." They don't think, because I know some people don't care for much about saving. So what do you say to somebody that think like that?
I would say that they would need to understand financial literacy.
Right.
So financial literacy talks about debt, talks about budgeting, talks about savings, talks about investing, right? But then even more importantly, the Lord calls us to be faithful stewards of what we have. And I think I'm a pastor, I apologize, but you have to be faithful in what we are given. We're not called to be reckless or anything of that nature.
Right.
But if we want to talk about generational wealth, right? So if I'm a type of person, if I get money and I go and spend it and not worry about the future tomorrow, or not worry about my kids, or not worried about what may come down the line, you're not being financially prudent. You're not being wise. You're not being godly with your money. So I would encourage that person, if you do have that type of mindset, just kind of think twice. Think about your future spouse. Think about your future kids. Think about potentially moving out of your parents' house. If you're living in your parents' house, if you're living in an apartment, think about moving out of that way. So you want to be able to provide goals for you. And living in the now is not great, right? Because we know 2020 happened, right?
Yeah.
And people needed money, or people were relying on different things, and there was a run on everything, run on water, run on milk. And if you didn't have money saved up, you were, they say, chez monsieur, right? So I would say not to live on the now, right? Just think about tomorrow, because we don't know what the future may hold.
Right. Now, I'm glad you mentioned generational wealth, and to segue into that, how do you think, how can a community overcome the wealth gap and achieve economic parity with other communities? Because we see how a lot of different communities, immigrants communities come to America, they thrive. You see the Indian communities, they thrive, and even the Mexican communities, for that matter, they thriving. But we don't see as much as a Haitian people. As a people, we don't see us thriving as much. So how can we, as a community, overcome that gap and achieve this economic parity with these other communities?
Yeah, I mean, you see the economic disparity between male and female. You see it within race. The one thing I can take, right? You and I both live in Ocean County,
Right.
And the one thing I would say is, there's a particular subset of group of people that live down there, and they support each other, right? Yes, it may be old money, it may be new money, whatever you want to call it, but those communities support each other. And I think what I can encourage us people, our culture, our Haitian culture, is support each other, support our local Haitian businesses.
That's right.
If it's a photographer person, if it's a restaurant, if it's somebody who's going out trying to, if it's somebody selling a T-shirt in the corner, or selling a Haitian, whatever it may be, so let's support each other, because other cultures are doing that. If you go to a subset of somewhere in New Jersey where the Indian population they're supporting each other. They're going to their supermarkets, they're going to their gas station. A lot of them own the gas stations. So we need to continue as a Haitian culture support each other. And I know people would say, hey, Kevin, I'm supporting our culture by sending money to Haiti, right? I'm sending money back to my country. And that's awesome. That's great. That is our duty. That's our civil duty. That's what we're supposed to be doing. But however, there are things here we can be doing in Monmouth County, Asbury Park, Neptune, to support our local businesses. And I think that's one way that we can continue to see that gap shrink, especially within, there's a disparity within the blacks, but then if you break down the blacks within the Jamaicans, Haitians, and so on and so forth, you see that the Haitians are at a wider gap.
Yeah, yes, we are. So, frère Samuel, nous tendez, supporter une lot, si nous on haïtien qui ont business, supporter, parce que c'est comme ça pour nous, si nous pas supporter une lot, et garder l'autre et communauté immigrante qui viennent, qui sortent dans notre pays, qui a évolué dans la zone là, garder nous dans le rétroviseur, quitter nous derrière, et puis y a évolué, et puis nous-mêmes nous derrière, parce que c'est supporter pour nous supporter une lot, supporter business une lot. Aider une l'autre, remettre une l'autre, c'est comme ça, tant que Pastor Kevin dit, c'est comme ça nous avons évolué économiquement. Right now, Pastor Kevin, I mean, we pretty much covered a lot of, pretty much everything when it comes to finance, but I know it's been in the news for the past, for the past month or so, banks are collapsing and things like that. What is your take on that?
Yeah, so my take was a couple of years, to my knowledge, right? So it's a couple of years ago. There was a lot of regulations that a previous administration had on banks, and those rules and regulations kind of lessened. So they became a lot easier for things like this to happen. So what happened really was a bank started collapsing, and the investors, people who have security deposits, wanted to go and get their money. Right. And as we all know, the FDIC only assures up to $250,000 in bank deposits. So if you was a person who had $500,000 in this particular bank, a portion of it wouldn't be able to be secured. And this wouldn't have happened at a big bank, TD Bank, or PNC, or anything like that. But just in case it did, right? Just want you all to think about it. If we all went to the bank one day and said we're going to go withdraw our money from the bank, at one given time, not one bank within this region will have enough cash on hand for all of us to withdraw. So at that particular time for these several banks, people were afraid of the news that was going on, that the bank might fail and they may lose their money. So there's what they called a run on banks. And literally, people were running to the banks and withdrawing their money. So I'm glad that the government did step in to ensure and to help these banks from collapsing, because we didn't want a repeat of what happened several years ago with the mortgage and the banks, the run on the banks then. But overall, that time period did kind of cause some panic within the markets, right? Because a lot of things were going down and so hopefully now they kind of stabilized. We do have high interest rates. The Feds have increased the interest rates. So that makes it a little bit difficult for us people to buy certain things. And it makes, as they're trying to curb inflation, the price of goods are still increasing. But hopefully by increasing the interest rates, the cost of goods will kind of go down. But to answer your overall question, I'm glad that the run on banks, or those banks collapse or potential collapse, is kind of behind us now, and we're kind of learning from the mistakes of not. We have rules in place for a reason, and we shouldn't lessen these rules because they think they're no longer in place. They're in place for a reason. So hopefully we kind of us as those are policymakers kind of learn their lesson and kind of keep those things in place.
Okay. Now, do you think of what happens will have an impact on the future of banking altogether?
Would it have a future in banking?
An impact on the bank as a.
I think what happened in 2018 or so, or 17, or a couple of years ago, what happened with the big banks, Bank of America and all those. Countrywide banks, all those different banks. I think that those rules and regulations that took place back then, or the failures that took back then with the mortgages, mortgage-backed securities, I think we kind of, as America, as policymakers, as finance people, they kind of learned their lesson from then. I think now this situation that took place this year is a little bit different. Because, like I said, you won't see a big bank collapse anymore. These banks were small Silicon Valley banks, a lot of tech banks, and a lot of investors who think who were investing into these these different type of banks. So I think overall, a lot of lessons were learned from this.
Right.
But I don't think those banks weren't for average.
Yeah,
hardworking
I mean
people
that's
like
what
us.
I was gonna ask. Because the reason why I asked about banking, because obviously it happens. You know, it was not for the average folk, not for the average Joe. But I wanted to know exactly what did happen to a bank. You know, a bank I go to, or a bank where I bank, for the people in the community that go to, or Chase Bank or Bank of America, things. These types of banks, would that ever happen? Because it's terrifying to think, you know, somebody's hardworking and you have your money in the bank, you can't withdraw your money when you need it. So that's why I asked. I want to make sure. You know, we don't know for sure, but we have an idea that, you know, from what you've just said, that it will not happen to a bank like that. So that is good to know, because our show is to look out for the people in our communities. So let's move on. And the next thing, I know earlier you mentioned something about, you know, financial literacy, and that's not something like, I remember when we were in school. That's not something that they taught in school, right? So do you have do you think schooling should, or school in general should think about having financial classes for even the from maybe school age kids to high school? Do you think that's a thing that needs to be done? Because if you don't have that financial literacy, like you said earlier, you're in a heap of trouble, because you don't know how to save money, and the way the economy is going, if you don't know how to manage or how to navigate your money, you probably will get left behind. So do you think it's it's gonna be something that maybe the people that are in charge need to look at?
Yes, 100%. I think financial literacy can start in several places, right? I think it can start at school. I think it start at home, right? Because I think a lot of kids pick up habits from our parents, right? Like for me, I picked up habits saving from my parents. I'm sure my children are picking habits from either me or my wife, and so on and so forth. And I think school as well. School can be a good help to teach kids or students about financial literacy. We could talk about debt, right? You could talk about saving. You could talk about budgeting. I remember when I was in high school, there was a club, I forget the name of it, but there was a accounting club that they had that offered not necessarily financial literacy, but it talked about accounting. It talked about the power of saving and the rule of 72, or learning different things about withholdings on your W-2 forms and things like that. So I think schools now are well versed on the importance of financial literacy, and it would be and also I don't know how Asbury Park High School or middle school, if they offer anything like that, but I'm sure a lot of these other school districts offer some type of education. I'm pretty sure Asbury Park as well will do so, but it's also important for us as parents and as community people to express the importance of financial literacy, for us to know the importance of budgeting and saving. And a lot of students leave college with debt, right? And I think even on the way up here, we talked about how we know people who has $20,000, $10,000 in credit card debt. And I think if they learned about financial literacy as a teenager, you know, I'm not saying they wouldn't have college debt, because these are habits that you have, but you'd be more well informed. You'd be more aware of the dangers that you can do to your credit score, the dangers you can do to just the impact they may have on you buying anything, buying a car, buying a house, or be able to be lend money if you have thousands of $1,000s of debt on a credit card.
Right. So now, what advice would you give to these young people, the young adults, or even teenagers who are just starting out in their financial journey?
The advice I would give somebody is to learn, read a little bit more about financial literacy. Read, open up in a savings account if it's depending on your age. You know, if you're middle school, high school, perhaps open up a savings account, a CD, just to learn the habits of saving money. If you're old enough, maybe open up a Robinhood just to start investing. I would just take advantage of the different products that are out there. If it's different 401 retirement accounts, any interest bearing accounts, and knowing that you must eliminate debt. Debt could be a debt killer. Debt there's something called good debt and bad debt, and at the end of the day, debt is debt. So anyone who's going on this financial journey want to be able to be free of debt in 20 years or 15 years. It's important that you must understand, educate yourself as much as possible, prepare yourself, build a nest egg, have an emergency fund. If it's an emergency fund of $1,000 or $2,000 for a rainy day, and set personal goals. Have some goals and make sure you do your best to achieve those goals.
Awesome. Okay. Finally, the last question I have for you. I know you give your young people some advice. How the people that are starting off. But what can you give our listeners overall? Like one piece of advice about, it could be about investing or saving money or whatever it may be, to achieve this financial success and security. Because, a lot of us came here to America as immigrants, to achieve the American dream. The American dream is a success, right? So to what piece of advice, one piece of advice would you give our listeners for achieving financial success and security? Because I know we talked about a lot, we covered a lot in a short period of time, but one thing, if they ain't get anything from what we talked about today, what one thing you would like for them to remember? Listen, this is very important. This is one thing you would like to say to them, and what is it?
I would say to educate yourself, right? I would say get as much education as possible. Read. I'm not here to promote anything, but sometimes I may read a book on financial planning or any money makeover that I'm trying to do. So learning, try to learn from other people's mistakes. Perhaps maybe learn from our parents' mistakes, right, or learn from somebody else's mistake. Constantly learning, reading. This journey, the one other piece of advice I can give is that understand that this journey is not going to happen overnight. Rome wasn't built in one day. Right. So, if you're trying to go on this financial journey where you're trying to build generational wealth for your children or children's children, or if you're trying to just start off saving or investing, it takes time, it takes patience. It's not going to happen overnight. So I would say just continue to educate yourself as much as possible. Surround yourself with somebody who can hold you accountable, right? And learn about financial planning. Perhaps in trying to educate as you're learning. Perhaps maybe educate your parents as well, right? Because I think, believe it or not, our parents may have money, but they may not be. I won't say using it the right way, but they can. It's important for everyone to be educated, right? If it's a young person or an older person, right? If it's an older person, they may want to be educated about having beneficiaries on their account or having a trust account or be able to have a will, right? It's important for an older person to know that they must have a will or a trust account where they can pass down wealth to their children. If it's a person who's younger, educate yourself on the market. Understand the trends, understand the different risks that may come involved. So education is power. Education, it takes time to learn about this, but it's not impossible. And those who are in the market are those who are willing to invest and to be able to make money. If you can't, you won't make money if you're not in the market. So I would say try to get in as you can.
Get in the game, right?
Get in the game, but more importantly, educate yourself while you're in the game and even before you get in the game.
Okay, now you say educate yourself. I know that was the last question, but I will ask you a follow-up. Now, how do you stay up to date on the latest financial trends and news? Because, you're a finance guy, you probably know where to go, but for the regular Joe, how do you have a preference of sources that you rely on?
Yeah, so I won't say growing up, I would say watching, there's different Wall Street journals, there's different magazines. But now, to be honest with you, a lot of this stuff in 2023, you can go online and grab different things or find a different podcaster. I won't say if it's a particular person like Dave Ramsey or whatever it may be, find somebody that you can trust, that's maybe going in the right direction financially, and they have a good proven track record that you want to follow and listen to and glean from. But for me, especially going in college and doing research, Wall Street Journal was something that I glued myself to, kind of understand what's going on in the market, and maybe watching like Bloomberg or those money shows where they talk about different things.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Pastor Kevin. Thank you. M'a connais si auditeur nous si nous gain deux trois questions pour Pasteur Kevin, nous gain 5 minutes. Seconde question, carré les radios, carré les nous. Pastor Kevin a essayé to try his best to answer all your questions. So si vous captez de nous qui ont question, relez-nous et puis n'a essayé répondre question. If not, we're about to end our show today, Interaction with Rock. It is clear that we've covered a wide range of topics and provided a valuable insights into the world of personal finance and wealth management. Throughout this broadcast, throughout this show, we've delved into the importance of budgeting, investing wisely, and making informed financial decisions. And one recurring theme that emerged in the significance of the financial literacy, right? It is crucial for us as a community to understand the fundamental concepts of finance, such as budgeting, saving, and managing debt. By equipping ourselves with this knowledge, we empower ourselves to make informed choices and take control of our financial future. So as a community, as Haitian people, faut nous faire devoir, nous faut nous apprendre. Donc, ou parce que Kevin dit, toute information là, si vous avez besoin d'aide, chercher information, on toujours nous là dans l'interaction, n'a pas essayé de gens nous capables. Si vous avez besoin d'aide, n'importe, nous peut-être nous pas qu'à aider financièrement, mais d'abord koto ka jeune information qui ka aider. And another key takeaway is the importance of setting realistic goals and creating a roadmap to achieve them, whether it's saving for a home or funding your education or preparing for retirement. Having a clear plan can make a significant difference. We discussed the various investment options available, emphasizing the importance of diversification. I know Pastor Kevin touched on that a little bit, and seeking professional advice if needed. So we're gonna end the show, but before we end, we're gonna remind you that Friday, May 19th. A mental health event. As I talked about it last Monday, we talked about it. We have a mental health awareness event at the First Haitian Baptist Church, 412 Asbury Avenue, Asbury Park. Just come, invite your friends, and invite your family. It starts at 6:45 p.m. The doors will be open. We start at 7 p.m. Refreshments will be served. We have 2 guest speakers, Mrs. Sabine Bouquet Charles, who's a mental health counselor. We have another guest speaker, Ted Peterson, is a licensed associate counselor. So we have 2 guest speakers. If you struggle with mental health, I know everybody, maybe you're not struggling with mental health, but you know someone who is. So just come in full, invite your friends and family, invite your colleagues, invite people to come and join our church community as we discuss our mental health and things. We're going to have this speakers not only going to be able to speak and help you understand what it's going to take to better your mental health, but they're going to have resources available for you if you need help, if you need to reach out to whoever you need to reach out to better yourself, because it is important not only to take care of a financial health, but a mental health is crucial, because without a mental health, there's nothing else, right? So it is important. Mental health awareness event, Friday, May 19th, doors open at 6:45, First Haitian Baptist Church of Asbury Park, 412 Asbury Avenue, Asbury Park, New Jersey. Thank you. This was Interaction with Rock. I'll talk to you next Monday. I hope you have a great night. I want to thank Pastor Kevin for taking time out of his busy schedule to be here with us to share his knowledge about finance. I hope, if you didn't catch anything, if you didn't take anything from this show, you took a little bit. Save money, save for the future, save for a rainy day. Thank you, Pastor Kevin.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Have a good night.
Nous c'est la jeunesse. On nous veille dignité nous parce que c'est premier côté à attaquer nous. On nous kebe tête nous, on grâce bête nous, on nous coin dans tête.
Nous c'est berceau, c'est la énergie couchée. Nous c'est cerceau pour qu'un continuité. Nous c'est toi roche diffé en bas chaud des pays. Nous c'est en grain en jardin et en pays. Nous c'est racines qui vivent notre pays. Nous c'est très d'union, nos mitons de l'essence en vieillesse. Nous c'est la jeunesse qui met tête nous, crase tête nous, prenons tête nous. Faut nous qui met tête nous, crase tête nous, prenons tête nous. Faut nous qui met tête nous, crase tête nous, prenons tête nous. Faut nous qui met tête nous, crase tête nous, prenons tête nous.
Toi-même tu sais, on va pas se laisser conduire, on doit être au volant, on va pas se laisser réduire en simple cerf-volant. Nous que l'oublier sinon c'est force, parfois yo prend nous tant que nous c'est bourrique chargé. Nous que l'oublier nous dans toute sauce, jeunesse en Haïti a pas qu'à désengager. On nous recommence à pratiquer sport, toute discipline. On nous éviter alcool, et drogue pour nous rester clean.
Si en pile fois gen moun qui plie ça nous yé, c'est parce que en pile fois nous plier ça nous yé. Nous c'est gardiens qui veillent bouteille. Les grands moun yo fait, c'est nous qui booster.
L'aime réaliser force que nous gagnons. N'a marché c'est pas le carré même les n'a saigné.
Non c'est pas le mis qui campé. Non j'ai planète là. Non c'est sentinelle qui l'a pour baiser. Bouton à l'état. C'est la jeunesse qui met tête nous. Crase tête nous. Prenons tête nous. Faut nous qui met tête nous. Crase tête nous. Prenons tête nous. Qui met tête nous. Crase tête nous. Prenons tête nous.
Faut nous qui met tête nous. Crase tête nous.
Prenons tête nous.
Si la vie son cadeau, jeunesse c'est escompte. Avant la mort vieillesse, quand même calme d'une compte. Pour une réussir dans la vie, visa c'est l'école ak sport. Paresse, drogue, ak alcool, pas même dans nos passeports.
This is WYGG 88.1 FM, Asbury Park.
bon pour yo. Assez à péter le péter. Veille à trop plein renversé. Gen moun ka prend prison. Gen yen ka prend poison. Wow.
C'est à péter, mal tout côté.
C'est vraiment réglé en contre lié.
C'est à péter, mal tout côté.
Merci tout le monde. Bon, nous saluer vraiment tout le monde, toutes amis, tout partout qui connecté émission ça. Je sens qu'il y a un écho là, qui passe là. Est-ce que je suis correct? Est-ce que nous entendons 5 sur 5? Parce que je sens qu'il y a un écho. Je souhaitais que je suis correct. Est-ce que nous entendons correct? Je souhaitais ça parce que je sens qu'il y a un écho là. Je souhaitais vraiment tout le bagage passer clair. OK? Jackie Salomon, Evely Joseph, merci à vous. OK. Nous pral parler pays, nous pas perdre du temps parce que gan pile pour un pral parler après-midi hein, dans cas d'émission ça. D'ailleurs, on tellement pas prêté, habitant à mise dans route. Avant malba nous en pile l'autre information. On pral aller droite dans dossier ça Ariel Henry avec équipe li qui décidé pour déplacer célébration drapeau. Malheureusement, je ne sais pas contre ça qui passe pays. Je t'attendais est-ce que c'est pas Liliane t'attendais avant hier dans le journal 4 heures? Est-ce que c'est pas vendredi? Quoi c'est vendredi et puis on t'attendait Lili. Et puis on croit le passer un extrait il y a une interview que vous réalisé avec quoi c'est historien Georges Michel si me pas trompé bon si est pas lui m'excusez mais monsieur que c'est lui parce que souvent il qui parlait avec Lili dans bagay histoire pays monsieur que c'est historien Georges Michel entre-temps qu'a gardé avec sur écran là moi dedans au cap c'est construction qu'a fait là jeudi à 15 donc il était 3 jours c'est bout de bois à mettre ville là toujours sale il a tenté font y passer mais mais ça beaucoup clair là et ce boulevard là où il là il y a pour si a font y passer mais rapide gardons ravine plein fatra dans doule là mais c'est ce boulevard où il là il y a pour justement si il a en construit stand pour recevoir délégation pour aller célébrer fête drapeau. Et c'est ça le dadouille, célébration entre guillemets. Et puis, l'homme temps de Radio Peuple à parler, elle ne doit pas comprendre, elle n'a pas internet, ça arrive. OK. Et puis, m'attendais historien qui a dit que, cap font analyse, cap dit, fête drapeau sont fête nationale, li ka célébrer dans n'importe ville dans le pays. Bon. Me respecte moun, me respecte nèg qui kon li, me respecte moun ka l'école et ceci m'pa comme nan niveau pour m'ta corriger on nèg tant ko historien Georges Michel. M'pa quoi ça. C'est conseil de nèg quand même si ou pas ta bien avec ou parent mais vraiment façon yo penser mais ou doit gen respect pour yo. Là pour nèg tant ko Bernard Gous. Code Gous m'a de monsieur quelque temps. René Julien t'a parlé avec avant hier maître René Julien. Ouais, même si tout ça qu'attendait bon, même madame Anigo qu'elle fini tête li là. Mais quand même au minimum respect doit gen pour yo, là pour nèg tant professeur Michel Soukar. Pour me citer ça seulement. Donc c'est son série de anciens mais ou pas capable comme si cracher sous valeur ça yo sous capacité yo. Mais l'homme tande professeur Georges Michel, historien qui dit que des rapports c'est oui me respecter opinion nèg là mais moi-même tout comme jeune cap suivre qui a quitté l'école qui t'apprendre qui t'a étudié t'a fait histoire pays à tout qui li nèg yo c'est pas ça yo t'apprendre moi qu'on y a si nèg yo vle refaire l'histoire Riven 4 boulevard attendez oui si nèg yo vle réinventer l'histoire ça sont l'autre débat si nèg yo vle changer l'histoire ça sont l'autre bagaille li faut nous clair sur ça. Est-ce que nous comprenons? Donc, si vous voulez comme si réinventer l'histoire, vous voulez refaire l'histoire, ça sont l'autre bagaille, sont l'autre débat. Mais si c'est dans l'histoire, ti ça que nous apprenons, ti bout d'histoire d'Haïti que nous te li là-dedans, donc c'est pas ça nous te comprendre, c'est pas ça nous t'apprendre. Parce que, ou pas qu'à dire que fête drapeau, c'est une fête nationale, c'est comme quoi, on est quand il décide de déplacer, là, le mettre au Caille jodian, là, le mettre au Cap jodian, demain, là, le mettre le Wadamet, après demain, le mettre le plateau central, après demain, le mettre le Tiot. Mais non! On ne peut pas prendre ça dans mes quel que soit intellectuel, là. Fête drapeau, c'est pas carnaval national lié. Faut nous clair sur ça, oui, la société. Fête drapeau, nous, c'est pas carnaval national lié. Le c'est carnaval national. Nous doit décider, c'est vrai, capitale pays c'est Port-au-Prince. Mais nous doit décider sorti Port-au-Prince à Cli, il y a Jacmel, il y a Locaille, il y a n'importe côté de recevoir parce que son ambiance culturelle. Son ambiance culturelle, une ambiance nationale. Mais fête drapeau, son histoire qui cache derrière. Mes amis, nous faut nous clair sur ça, oui. Fête drapeau a une histoire cachée derrière. Ça dit nous pas cracher sur histoire ça. Comme si histoire ça li pas de passer cap haïtien. Ça dit moi m'attendre on magistrat, m'attendre magistrat. Bon, quand on rentre avec ça. Mais moi qu'on va prendre nèg sort consommer comme magistrat en commune de coup en ville historique de coup cap haïtien. Nous faut nous clair sur ça. Faut nous clair sur ça, oui. Nous pas prendre nèg comme ça, on nèg sort comme ça, et puis mettre comme magistrat en ville historique, dans une ville cap haïtien. Ça c'est manquer tout capois dégâts. Et si moun au cap c'est moun, yo pas doit quitter ça le fait au cap. Fête drapeau, c'est pas carnaval national lié. Faut ne pas mettre confusion, parce que ti jeune, pas oublier, gen ti moun k'ap suivre non. Gen génération de pralé, mais gon génération k'ap vini. Génération k'ap suivre nous aujourd'hui, qui ça va l'apprendre là? Fête drapeau pays, c'est pas carnaval national. M'pas d'accord qu'un historien, parce que peut-être l'âge a avancé. L'âge a avancé, monsieur Nka dit ça ne veut de réflexion, mais c'est pas parce que l'âge a avancé pour nous forcer nous bouer tout des bagages qui passent ça. Fête drapeau, c'est pas carnaval national. Ça veut dire qui ça? Drapeau, a li gon histoire charrier, li charion histoire. Eh bien, ça m'a dit Pierre Richard exil, parce que ça m'a dit ou va pas prendre mal. Comment on dit? Li gon histoire, qui histoire de drapeau? Parce que kounya faut retourner dans l'histoire. Pierre Richard exil, retourner dans l'histoire d'Haïti. Retourner chita sous dans l'école pour yo faut apprendre qui histoire caché derrière des rapports pour qui ça c'est akaye à célébrer. Bon m'dou chaque ville ça yo gon l'autre ti non accompagner yo oui. Léo dou Léo Gan ça doit pas la cité comment cité d'Anakaona. Léo parle de Petit Gouave, c'est pas ville comment le relais Faustin Soulou que pas ça Ti Gouave. Gam ve fly non, Saint-Marc. Qui ça c'est Marc encore ni ça non Faustin Soulouk c'est lit c'est Marc ou bien Tigouave ni ça sage entre une là-dedans de ça yo là on dit go naïf qui ça yo dou la cité de l'indépendance et bien là on dit Akaye on dit la cité du drapeau mes amis ça li gon histoire et pas comme son blague li on décide de faire la carrière chaque année non son histoire qui cache derrière. Histoire révélée nous c'est la même yo te vini vin coup de drapeau et pas soit apprendre l'école sinon sans bas bon te chita faut pas faire ça sinon sous pas apprendre ça connaissant bas bon te chita pas de jam chita côté moun d'apli cité de drapeau c'est Akaye li pas au cap donc si moun au cap accepter ça yo sacrifier drapeau en plus. Ça dit Ariel Henry Baranik décider comme on nèg m'pa connaît tout puissant au Gondé et puis le dou bon nous pral célébrer drapeau de bagay. C'est pas en fait, c'est pas un carnaval national fait drapeau aye. Cité drapeau c'est Akaye. Et m'pa ka comprendre tendez bien, montre la droite la société. M'pral faire un petit bagay. Moi même m'a demandé est-ce que moun sa yo c'est moun doujou. Parce que pouvoir qu'il a, c'est pouvoir Rosemilla Saint-Ville petit frère. C'est première dame liée dans le pouvoir Ariel là. Tout li met, tout rani en bourrique, Jean joute talageli. Attendez bien. On pas qu'à comprendre pour Rosemilla dans le pouvoir Ariel là. Pour ancien avocat peuple là, hein, André Michel dans le pouvoir Ariel là. Pour yo quitter ça à passer comme ça monsieur. Est-ce que madame ça bon montrer nos bagailles? Ma vinn sou li oui. Faut me commencer bi jodi ya. De 18 mai m'a fait journée avec net li même. Attendez bien, bon montre nos bagailles. Bon monde, qui est sur l'écran là? Ouais madame ça? Meni, première dame de la République. Ouais là, nous n'avons cité des rapports même. Parce que des rapports ont une histoire de charrier derrière. Là, nous n'avons cité des rapports. Image, vous regardez là, nous n'avons cité des rapports et c'est dernier discours madame Sapral prononcé en 2020 avant de remettre le pouvoir. On est tous sous pouvoir, mais avant le pas magistrat encore. Est-ce que madame Sali pas dans le pouvoir Ariel là? Oui là. À qui j'ai? À qui sentiment? Bon, est-ce que madame ça a mis le pied la caille encore qu'on y a? M'ta mais connaît à qui j'ai moun akaye a gardé Rosemilla Saint-Ville petit frère qui bon côté Ariel Henry qui décide déplacer célébration de rapport qui gon histoire cachée derrière lui kounya qui pral mener le cap et gon imbécile idiot sonore dans pouvoir qui déclarait oh c'est dans cadre développement ville au cap on ville qui sale regardez barrière bouteille qui gon histoire de charrier derrière regardez ta barrière bouteille moun au cap nous salope en pile désolé si nous ka quitter ça passer là nous salope parce que m'a regardé ta barrière bouteille au lieu de des magistrats bon m'a regardé mes amis là Johnson Napoléon qui te font un geste pour te voyer 2 camions en ville là m'pas quoi jusqu'à présent ou pas bloqué dans douane comme si on ville sale comme ça au lieu de des magistrats pour nettoyer ville là pour demander pouvoir central l'argent pour nettoyer au cap kounya nous quitter Ariel qui fait Tintin kounya dit nous pral célébrer fête drapeau au cap qui histoire drapeau te gagne avec au cap si c'est 18 novembre mais c'est normal parce que c'est fin bataille de Vertières chaque ville a une histoire cachée. Eh bien, craser Citadelle la Ferrière, craser tout côté. Parce que chaque ville, ça a une histoire cachée derrière yo. Sou pas une histoire pays Ariel, mon cher. Désolé. Retourner côté bon, on pas connaît parce que yo dit mon c'est docteur mais pas gamin. Gen là ou pas gen diplôme vrai Ariel, on pas comprendre nous. Parce que au moins ça son minimum. Son minimum ça est docteur Ariel Henry. Et qu'on y a pile idiot sonore qui autour de ou, yo pas d'où ça pas bon? On pas comprendre. Bon, on t'a aimé Ariel expliquer m'pe parti ça. En comme si et puis bluffeur yo pas gen dimension pour yo di pays ya. Raison fondamentale y a déplacer célébration de rapport, c'est à cause Bogi, Big C, Marques, Jeff bloqué Canaran, yo pas négocier avec yo. Si yo te négocier avec yo, tout le bagage fini oui. Et même yo même nan, yo pas traquer yo mais yo te ka négocier avec yo. Le fait que yo pas négocier avec yo ou bien yo pas négocier avec yo, kounya yo décidé pour yo déplacer célébration de rapport pour la ville dans le nord. Qui ça au cap gen pour avec célébration de rapport pays ya? Faut pas faire moun ça. C'est tout haïtien n'a pas sans papier. Donc son haïtien ouais, quel que soit haïtien d'accord Ariel, yo relè moun ça apatride. Et gon gens pour peuple la gérer malandrin ça, quel que soit moun qui d'accord avec ça Ariel a faire. Si nous pas l'histoire, nous retourner l'école. Retourner l'école. Ça dit, ville au cap, li gen histoire pâle. Ville Gonaïve gen histoire pâle. Saint-Marc gen histoire pâle. Verrette gen histoire pâle. Ville du Marseille estimé. Yon nan pi gros président que n'te gagné n'a éclairé. Chaque ville yo gen histoire pa yo. Allez sous plateau central ou joindre histoire nèg conseil de moun makout. Chaque ville yo gen histoire yo, Cité Soleil là gen histoire pal. Bel-Air li gen histoire. Ça dit, si nous avons l'histoire pays, retournez l'école, al chita sous l'école, relais moun qui connaît, fait nous un petit cal instruction. Mais nous pas cracher sous symbole un pays qui se dérapole et puis moun a applaudi. Nous avons un magistrat qui a parlé, son bagage grave. C'est qualité nèg ça nous permet magistrat au cap, on ville historique comme ça monsieur. Nous faisons honte. Bon fait un petit cal, madame ça gen oublié. Mouno non cap l'aide en pile si mouno cap quitter ça passer là son bail grave oui cap passer là côté madame ça bon fait entendre on extrait dans discours madame ça dernier discours bon me garder on fait entendre li gen oublié m'a vinn tout lire m'a tourner sur lui oui m'a ba un petit lossier côté
et les fils de la nation
attendez
se mitraillent et se donnent en spectacle au sommet même de l'État aux yeux du monde. Notre drapeau implore notre pitié. Notre drapeau implore notre pitié. Quand il est souillé, foulé au pied de la corruption. Ce drapeau qui, jadis, était le symbole d'une nation fière et libre, digne et honorable, laborieuse et courageuse. Chères concitoyennes, chers concitoyens, le drapeau est plus qu'un symbole. Le drapeau, c'est une déclaration. Le drapeau est plus qu'une déclaration. Le drapeau est la religion d'une nation. Le drapeau est plus qu'une religion. Le drapeau est l'essence même de la nation. Chers concitoyennes, chers concitoyens, chaque fois drapeau insécurité a monté 17 hauteurs, drapeau développement descend bien bas. Chaque fois drapeau mauvaise gouvernance a monté 17 hauteurs.
Non, tournez encore Ti John. Ouais, ti parti ça, me remet l'empile. Ti John tournez encore. Dis ouais yes. Quittez me saluer dis ouais yes. Ti John tournez ti parti ça pour peuple là. Parce que moun ça manger oublié et ça fait moi-même archive moi toujours là pour yo. Tendez bien, ouais, archive t'es toujours là pour yo. Yo mange oublié. Ti John, tournez encore Ti John. Ça l'important. Kadi m'y impression kounya drapeau insécurité a pas monter. Drapeau kidnapping n'a pas monter. Elle peut remonter. Elle va remonter. Et ça te ferait peuple là, kebe là peuple là. Parce que c'est nous-mêmes qui pour descendre drapeau kidnapping dans le pays. Plus passé 2 semaines, petit journal a changé dans le pays d'Haïti. Pour la première fois depuis plus de 3 ans là, tout petit journal changé. Quand y a nèg yo, parfois yo pas une parole pour yo parler. Parce que dès vous paraître dans matin blo, bien là, hier soir nèg exam débarqué sous Delma, yo kidnappé 3 moun, 5 moun kidnappé et là dans tabac, 10 moun kidnappé Pétionville. Petit journal yo changé. Et ça faut m'dou peuple là, kembe là, nous pas ka vague. Parce que c'est nous-mêmes qui ka descendre drapeau kidnapping dans le pays d'Haïti. Seul nous ka descendre drapeau insécurité ya. Et pas ken l'autre moun. D'ailleurs même yo complice. Yo fait partie dans montée de rapport insécurité ya. Tournez encore Ti John. Moun sa ou manger oublié, faut nous toujours rappeler ça. Yo manger oublié.
Chers concitoyennes, chers concitoyens, le drapeau est plus qu'un symbole. Le drapeau, c'est une déclaration. Le drapeau est plus qu'une déclaration. Le drapeau est la religion d'une nation. Le drapeau est plus qu'une religion. Le drapeau est l'essence même de la nation. Chers concitoyennes, chers concitoyens, chaque fois drapeau insécurité a monté 17 hauteurs, drapeau développement descend bien bas. Chaque fois drapeau mauvaise gouvernance a monté 17 hauteurs, dans le palais national et dans le primati, drapeau désespoir, drapeau rêve géniaux, chivé en miettes morceaux. Chaque fois drapeau injustice, monté 17 hauteurs, impunité, corruption, couler champagne. Monsieur le Président, vous êtes comptable de la joie et de la peine, de l'espoir et du désespoir, de la confiance et de la méfiance du peuple haïtien. Vous avez envers ce vaillant peuple une obligation de résultat et non de moyens. Une obligation de changement et non de promesse de changement. Une obligation de vérité et non de contre-vérité. Vous avez la haute responsabilité de dire la vérité à la nation haïtienne. Le peuple a besoin d'espoir et non de promesses. Le peuple a le droit de vivre en sécurité. Tel est le cri de tous les Haïtiens. Le peuple souhaite vivre en sécurité. Tel est le cri de tous les Haïtiens. Les Haïtiens vivent au quotidien, dans leur chair et dans leur sang, le coût en vies humaines. De cette insécurité.
Pas un problème. M'a tourné encore sur le 18 là même. M'a la 18. Pas un congé ici. Pas un congé, pas un congé. M'a tourné encore le 18 pour mettre en jeu comme a vinn sur Rosemilla. M'a faut entendre tout ça qu'on a dit. M'a cherché au bout parce que ou manger oublié parce que m'pa comprendre pour Rosemilla qui n'en bas vente mon cher Ariel ou même qu'a parler nous là, un beau discours. Bagay sérieux. Prétextant entre guillemets te contre Jovenel, Moïse. Et pour vendre tout, pour faire paraître comme un leader charismatique pour mon Arkaye. C'était la fierté totale. Et d'ailleurs, moi-même personnellement, m'te kon supporter Rosemilla. Le m'attend des paroles ça yo. Son haïtien mieux moi-même dit ça déjà. Le m'attend des paroles ça yo. On dit même non, gen l'espoir pour pays ya. Son paquet moun qui fait nous honte, oui. Bon, l'autant de moun par exemple, tant que madame Edmond Supplice Bozil, ou dit bon ouais, moun ça gen l'espoir. Dans le temps, l'autant d'André Michel, Maître Newton, Louis Saint-Just, etc., deux avocats peuple là. Ou dit gen l'espoir pour pays ya. Pourtant c'est manger ou n'y a cherché, c'est manger à bousquet. C'est affaires vente y a réglé. Ou mettre été branché, m'a tourné sur Rosemilla le 18, le jour même. Ça veut dire que, tendez bien la société. Bon, me retourner au cap. Mais tant qu'à monter au cap là, pral gen 18 mai au cap. Bon, me donne un petit bagay. Bon, dis une parole. Si qu'on y a l'autre l'école, j'en dis à 100 baba on te chita, ça son l'autre débat. M'pas responsable ça. Moi-même, grâce à Dieu, m'te l'école, dans l'école nationale, m'te l'école dans le lycée, et nous te pote ti bout histoire d'Haïti, plus géographie. Donc, gan pile, n'te bon professeur, qui te kon apprendre nous histoire pays. Donc, ou pas capable comme si déplacer yon symbole, et ou dit dans le discours là, le symbolisme du drapeau, c'est Arkaye. Kounya bandou qui malé pendiet sous nous là, moun au cap, bon bal avec nous. Faut m'dan nos an, ou comme ba non nego cap là, faut m'dan nos amis au cap. Faut m'dan nos amis au cap pour dire Jean-Ville là, m'gal gati m'dan nos amis tout à l'heure au cap parce que faut regarder comment au cap levé. Écoutez. Bon me dit non ti bagay. Mais danger de pendier sous tête nous là. On dit que moun au cap décidé de respecter ça qui fait là, yo déplacé et célébration de rapport, yo sorti avec la cahier et puis ça qui passé. Tendez bien. Oui, c'est Soso. Oh, monsieur branché bien. Monsieur. Nous breo. C'est gade travail en chinois, monsieur. Ça va nèg marron, non? Façon chinois de faction ça. En chinois de faire li. Regardez, bon bagay. Il peut bluffer, l'autre bluffer boule micro la k'bay menti. Regardez nèg, monsieur. Ah, monsieur tombé dans grien. Nous bon sou yo, n'a vinn tout à l'heure sous ça. Attendez bien. Regardez. Bon m'dou ki danger de gen dans ça. Moun au cap. L'on décidé déplacer symbole ça. Parce que fêter de rapport à Kaye, c'est un lieu historique qu'on pas capable de banaliser, ou pas capable sale. Tenez bien ça me dit nous. Ou pas capable de cracher sous symbole ça. On dit que jodi a moun au cap, nous content de battre bravo, nous accepter Ariel, al sal drapeau nous en pi plus nan au cap. Et kounye la, si l'autre année, gon l'autre madichon, pi madichon bas Ariel, qui décide de déplacer célébration vertière là, ou bien commémoration date ça dans vertière, et puis li vin fel go naïve. À qui figure, à qui visage, nous pral tomber plein dans médias pour nous dire, oh, ceci, bagay, vertière là, c'est au cap lié, bagay, ou comprenez ça m'dou, li pas à l'autre côté, li ka l'autre côté, parce que nous t'es d'accord à Kaye à l'autre côté. C'est comme si vous déplacez ville à Kaye, et vous le mettez au cap. Moi-même, et ça te fait, les m'attendez. Historien, professeur qui a parlé, qui a dit, oh, son fête nationale, m'saisi, m'met de en tête, son titre l'eau mal bran, oui. Et Mimi, Mimi la plante, je te salue, son titre l'eau mal bran, oui. L'homme de professeur me dit, oh, professeur historien, oui, qui a parlé comme ça. Fête drapeau, c'est pas carnaval national lié à la société. On dit, ah, gon face qui fait pays, faut briller pour Haïti. Faut briller pour pays. Gon face qui fait pays, t'assemblé nous manger, nous jouer grand monde dans mauvais la ligne. Et nous jouer grand monde dans mauvais la ligne parce que là me dit gon face qui fait pays. Parce que si on historien, nèg gros connaisseur, oui, qui parler comme ça me dit nous mêler, nous mêler pirate. Kounya on imagine que gon nèg qui pi madichon que Ariel qui décide que eh bien qui déplacer commémoration date vertière là, fin bataille vertière 18 novembre. Et puis il déplace le qu'on y a vinn célébrer le go naïve. Qui ça n'a dit on y a? Pas gagné un dit non. Ça dit coup ça pas qu'à passer. Faites drapeau c'est au Akaye. Si Ariel pas qu'à pointer la Akaye à cause de 100 millions là dans 5 secondes qui bloque Canaran, que le fait d'un Jean Jovenel. Li rete dans Mupana, li dépose un jeb flé. Pas vinn gaspiller l'argent, faire macaque, combien millions goud, al construire stang, faire grimace. Ça c'est détail. On ne pas cracher sous symbole pays comme ça la société. C'est seul pays, on pas comprendre la société. Dans tout pays organisé, lieu historique yo, ou pas qu'à banaliser yo, non pas qu'à saluer lieu historique yo non. Oh. Ou pas jamais tendé pour président États-Unis comme si déplacer World Trade Center dans New York, même s'il était écrasé. Parce que li gon symbole li représenté. C'est comme si on dit déplacer palais dans capitale politique pays c'est Washington DC. Ah, pas qu'à faire ça. Non, pas qu'à faire ça. C'est-à-dire que bandi exam pas qu'à empêcher des autorités pour célébrer, ou encore pour apprendre à respecter une série de lieux historiques. C'est pas normal, c'est inacceptable. Et tout citoyen sérieux doit lever camper comme ça. Si un citoyen est d'accord, ça, qu'on est pas moun. On clair sur ça, on met 10 sauver. Mais quel que soit haïtien qui d'accord, Ariel Henry, al pi sal drapeau nou nan au cap, qu'on est pas haïtien, pas moun, sont apatrides. Et bon haïtien de tout lever, doit lever contre lui. Eh bien, 17 octobre, nous allons fêter l'Okaï. Ou pas, pays a fini? Pays a fini, oui. Kounya, les gens qui sont d'accord, oui, pour nous recevoir, fête drapeau à la caille, nous. Nous souhaitons nous pas plein, pas gagner dans la radio, pas venir les. Bon, nous pas brûler tout non plus. Nous avons 100 ans pile pour nous brûler dans Caraïbes. Et là, nous carrelé plus souvent. Le matin, et boulevalier. Nous relé là-dedans, relé dans Zambia, Loukoulok. Ou te fait fly, d'accord, fait fly, Loukoulok. Pas une faire débat là. Ou te fait fly avant, ou fait fly. Ok, relé Loukoulok, relé l'autre nèg yo. Relé Ismaël, relé yo, guerrier, relé yo, laisse ça n'a vin plein. Oh, regardez, mais ceci, vêtière, mais déplacer le de go naïve, pas plein. Man mauvais là, on mal parler l'autre dossier, ok? Bonsoir Haïti, bonsoir le monde. 18 novembre, n'a fait le Miragouane, 18 novembre, Junior Bleman pral fait le Miragouane, pas un problème. Son pays difficile. Ça va passer la caille, nous pas douce du tout, hein? Assez pour nous. Bonsoir à vous. Bon, me font un coup de tête dans au cap pour me connaître comment ville là est avant.
Politicien bloqué pays, ne yo vle jan yo vle. Reste avec bourgeois, yo prend pose en faveur peuple yo ye. Privé nous de tout ça, moun besoin pour yo vivre. Billet comme peuple là, pour yal boule étranger. Bifonne, kap pran pose.